Hello, my name is Raquel Garcia. I'm going to be explaining my two methods, my two strategies. The first one is called the Goldilocks method, and this one focuses on motivating students to read. And then the second I'm going to be demonstrating orthographic mapping, and this focuses more on phonics. So in the first strategy for the Goldilocks method, basically what it is, and that's why it's called the Goldilocks method, is because we're trying to get students to figure out what book is either too hard, too easy, or a just right book. And they're trying to find the just right book. So a book that they can read independently, a book that they're going to be able to understand and enjoy. So the first thing that you have to do is, first of all, introduce the concept of either too hard, too easy, and or just right. And this does take a lot of modeling, a lot of practice. You're gonna have to do these model using your own books in your own classroom library, and then you can give examples of books that are too hard, too easy, and just right for them to read. And once you do this, you're gonna have the kids, explore the books themselves and kind of ask themselves the questions, and I'll go over the questions in a bit, so they can kind of understand if the book is too hard, too easy, or just right for them. So if a book is too hard, these are some of the questions that were in our book. If a book is too hard, these are some of the questions. Like I said, it says, are you confused about what is happening in this book? So let's say they grab a book. I'm going to just explain a model really quick. Let's say they grab a book and they open it and they're looking through it and they're reading some of the text. And they're just a little confused about what's going on. They're not quite understanding. And as they're reading, their voice is a little choppy because some of the words are just not making sense to them. So if they answer yes to any of those questions, this book right here is too hard for them. So they would, put this one back. And let's say they grab a different one. Now, to see if a book is too easy, some of the questions are, have you read it many, many times before? Do you understand or can pronounce almost every word? Or can you read it smoothly? So let's say they grab this book off the shelf, and once they open it up, they can see that they have no problem reading the text, and they're just breezing through every page. So this book might be, if you answer yes to any of those questions, this book might be a little too easy for you to read. So then the child might put this book back. Let's say they come to a different book, and if they answer yes to any of these questions, then this book might be a just right book for them. So it says, do you understand some of this book? Is this book new to you? Because of course they're not going to understand every single word on the page, but as long as they understand the majority of it, then that would be a yes. Are there just one or two words on the page that you don't know? So maybe you're getting stuck on a couple of words, but not the majority of them. Then this would be a just right book. And so then this is the book that they would select, and that they would then read independently. And this strategy is great not only for the struggling readers, but all readers in general, struggling readers, and also ELLs. The book did explain how this is a very good strategy for ELLs and for the struggling or marginalized readers. And so this is a great way, a great strategy that you can use in your classrooms to motivate students to get to reading. I know this might be a little bit more complicated to do with the younger ones. Personally, I teach pre-K, so this is not a strategy that I would utilize in my classroom because they're not quite reading yet. I kind of just let them browse through all the books I have in my library, and they pick and choose anything that catches their interest because they're not reading yet. But when I did teach first grade, we did do something similar. I wasn't aware that there was a strategy and that it had a name, the Goldilocks plan. But what we did was something, they would pick up a book off the shelf, and as they would open the book, they would read. And so they would, every time that they came upon a word that they didn't know, they would lift a finger. So let's say they would open the book and they were reading, oh, I don't know this word. And they're reading, oh, this is a word I don't know. This is a word I don't know. This is a word I don't know. If they would get to 5, it's kind of like the 5-finger rule. If they would get to 5 words, then that book was just too hard for them, and they would close the book and select a different book. So I tried to tell them between 3 or less words. And that was an okay book. But if they got to more than 5, then that book was just too hard for them. And that strategy worked for the younger ones. So I guess it just depends, what grade level you teach. But I think it can be modified for the different age groups. And it is a great motivator for students to get reading. The Goldilocks plan. Now, the second strategy that I wanted to focus on was orthographic mapping, or zap it, map it, tap it, graph it. There's many different ways that it can be called, but it's basically just mapping out words phonetically or even irregular spelled words, the high frequency words. And this just kind of helps the kids internalize the words rather than just, showing the word on a flashcard or just out of context and just for them to memorize it. So this kind of does allow the orthographic mapping to be ingrained in their brain, and they memorize it much faster, or internalize it, actually learn the word. So I use a little map that looks kind of like this. So the child would spin. I use like little paper clips. You can use whatever it is you find. They do have some spinners on Amazon, but I don't have those because I don't have those in my classroom. But the child would spin the word, then here they would tap it, and they're literally just tapping the word and listening for how many phonemes they hear. So let's say they're doing the word am, and they would tap the word ah. That's how many sounds they hear. So you can tap it here. I actually use little poppets, and they pop the sounds on there. They really like doing that. But like I said, I teach lower grades, so it's a lot of hands-on stuff, and just to get them engaged. And then here they would map it out. So you can use counters, you can use beads, you can use Play-Doh, anything that you want to use. And they just move the counters or the beads, the manipulative, up into the box to show how many phonemes they hear. So for example, here they would use 2. We would do ah, because that's how many sounds are in the word am. Then the last step is writing it. So they would grab, I usually have these in sleeves, and they grab a dry erase marker, and then we're going to draw the lines for how many sounds they hear. So they would do 2 lines here, ah, Then I would ask them, okay, the first sound is ah, what letter makes the ah sound? And then they would write it. Okay, the next sound is what letter makes the sound? And they would write it. Okay, so like this is a phonetically spelled word. Like, because I teach the younger kids, they're still not, I haven't introduced long vowels to them. So this word would be a heart word, or what I call a heart word, because the part that they would have to learn by heart would be the silent E. The E doesn't make a sound. They're not aware of that rule yet. So in order for me to show them, or for them to internalize the word like, I'm going to tell them I, k. They hear 3 sounds, and then at the end they're going to draw a little heart to remember that the E is there, the E is silent, the E doesn't make a sound, and that's the part that we have to memorize by heart. I'm going to go ahead and model with my own child, my elementary child, so that you can kind of see how this would go in a classroom. Okay, today we're going to be working on our sight words. We have 3 sight words this week. We have the word am, I, and like. Can you say the words?
Am, I, like.
Okay, we're going to get our spinner. We're going to spin to see what word we're going to be mapping out. All right, what is this word right here?
I.
I. Great. Can you tap the word I?
I.
Good. How many sounds do you hear in the word I?
I.
How many sounds do you hear in the word I?
1.
Good. Now we're going to write it. With your marker, you can make your line. And say the sound as you write it.
I.
Very good. Can you use the word I in a sentence?
I like waffles.
I like waffles. Very good. All right, let's try it one more. Can you erase that word? We're going to spin one more time. Let's see what word we get. Good. What is that word? Am. Can you tap the word am? How many sounds? Tap. How many sounds do you hear?
2.
2 sounds. Good. Let's map it. Good. Now we're going to write it. Can you make your lines for the sounds you hear? Great. Well, can you give me one sentence with the word am?
I am honest.
I am honest. Good. We're going to map our last word because we already did these two. Okay, can you erase that so we can do the last word? What is this last word right here?
Like.
Like. Okay, can you top the sounds you hear for the word like?
I.
Good. Now let's map it.
I.
Good. Now we're going to write it. Can you make the lines for the word like? How many sounds do you hear?
I.
Good. Now we're going to write the letters that make those sounds. What letter makes the sound ooh?
L.
Good. What letter says I?
I.
I. Good. Long I. What letter goes here?
K.
Now we're missing a letter at the end. It doesn't have a sound. What letter goes at the end of our word?
E.
Can you make a line and write it? Good. Now this is the part that we're going to memorize by heart because it does not make a sound. Can you put a little heart right here? Good. What is this word?
Like.
Like. Can you give me a sentence with the word like?
I like pizza.
Good job.